Hey there. Thanks for tuning into a new episode of Tinnitist TV. Today, I am talking with Hannah Fairlight. She's not really a lone wolf, but she has played one on screen. You might know the Nashville performer from her acting roles in Pitch Perfect 3, where she played the antagonistic rocker Veracity, and the reality TV series Crazy Hearts Nashville, where she was painted as a manipulative, ambitious country singer. In actual reality, Fairlight is neither of these characters, though she has spent much of her life following her own path as a busker, singer-songwriter, actor, and audio engineer. That trail has now led to her fourth release, yes, Lone Wolf, a disc with plenty of bite, in the form of scrappy, guitar-driven 70s rock and punk. As she ramped up to the album's May 24th release, Fairlight zoomed in from Music City to chat about her current musical pack, being a TV villain, starring as a leather girl in Ace Frehley's Cherry Medicine video, and plenty more. Enjoy.
Hello there, sir.
How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks for asking. Where are you today? You look like you're at home.
I'm at home. Yeah, my husband was kind enough to take the kids on a bike ride. So it's a beautiful spring day here in Nashville. So
Ah,
he got him out, and here I am.
Nashville. Lovely, lovely place. I wore my Nashville shirt for you.
Oh, hey, perfect. All right.
Yeah, I love Nashville. Spent some quality time there over the years.
Wonderful.
And
Wonderful.
you've lived there for like what, a decade now at least, right?
Correct. Yeah, I moved here in 2013, September of 2013.
Oh,
So
you chose well.
thank you. It feels that way.
Well,
It's the longest I've ever spent in one place. So something
I
about it
guess.
hit me
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Good. All right. Well, let's get down to business. We are here to talk about your upcoming album, Lone Wolf. Um, Congratulations and compliments on that.
Thank, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Hey, no problem. It does not sound to me like an album from 2024, you know? It sounds kind of old school, pop, rock, some new wave, folk rock. It's a real kind of lovely, messy mishmash of old sounds and styles. Was
Yeah,
that was that the way you went into it, what you were going for, or was that just the way it came out?
I would say a little bit of both. I went into it by surprise last April, so it's been just under a year. I met a producer, Paul DeFiglia, who produced the album. We are getting to know each other. I went over to his house to see his home studio in the back called Daylight Sound. And we were just kind of playing get to know each other. There was no agenda. He just wanted to show me the space. And when I walked in that space, something kind of just hit me. I think he was playing some Elliott Smith in the background, and the smell. I don't know. There was just something beautiful about the space. And I actually was thinking about inquiring about his help with another project. I was fooling around with my two friends. We have this project called Odd Cop. So to be continued on that, or, to TBA.
All right.
But we'd kind of self-produced, and I decided while I was talking to Paul that we didn't really need. I was like, what am I doing here? Like we're already producing it ourselves. It's not going to work. But all of a sudden I was just overcome with this inspiration to record my own new work. And I promise you, I didn't walk in there thinking with one iota of my body about my own music and about him producing me or even embarking on a new album. 3 weeks later, we were in the studio together. And after that meeting that day, I had been demoing. I kind of demo songs on the constant. I'm just like catching ideas, being a vessel. When they come in, I get them in the phone. I either do a quick voice memo or I demo them out. And I went home from that meeting and I demoed out the entire album front to back. And I kind of knew that I wanted to go for this rock and roll, super simplistic 3 chord song, 4 chord song, let's see how simple I can make this. It was kind of a challenge to myself.
Well,
Like,
and that is a challenge, though, isn't it? Because I mean, it's I think always the temptation, especially if you're a younger songwriter, which you have more experience in that. But there's always that temptation to add one more thing and add one more thing, and getting a really good simple melody or a simple riff, that's really hard work, isn't it?
it is.
Yeah.
And I'll add that with my background, I was classically trained on piano. And
Yeah.
in junior high school and high school, I came to know about Tori Amos, and she was a huge inspiration for me. And she's so eclectic and out of the box. And so that in my back pocket put together with the classical music, a lot of what I was writing and what I took with me when I moved to New York City was a lot of people were saying it sounded like Broadway or something, like just really bizarre, out of the box. Like I was trying to be so complex.
Uh-huh.
And it took me, 20 years of shaking it down to
Right.
filter out like, hey, sonically, I want to see if I can challenge myself and get to a simple place. And so I threw those demos at Paul. I really, honestly, I blew him up. We laugh about it today, but I blew him up with these ideas. I just kept sending him the demos. And 3 weeks later, he had availability in his schedule, and I grabbed my band guys and we went in there and we did it to tape, which I've never done before.
Wow. Okay.
So that was fascinating. That process was so beautiful.
So, and then, I mean, that also, you kind of have to either have it really together or be willing to accept the imperfections that come along then, which, because you're not in the box where you can just nudge that over a little bit.
Yes, and I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. In fact, there's like probably not in your first listen, you might not catch a couple of them, but I left a lot of those like mistakes or boo-boos or whatever. I kind of left some of those in there and I let them happen and like just worked around it. A couple of the tracks we did, Paul came up with a drum machine um, sound, and he came up with the programming there. And there were times when I was jamming away on the piano and I like lost my place in the song, and that became the song. Like then it was like, well, we got it this way.
Happy
Sounds good to me.
accidents.
Let's move on. Like I wasn't. This was very intentional in that like I had fleshed out the songs pretty well before we got in there, and once we got in there, it was like the tape's rolling. Let's do this. We got them on like the first and second takes
Well,
mostly.
that must have been really cool if you haven't worked that way in a long time, if ever, to go in and on the one hand, I would think it's maybe intimidating or you're a little nervous about it because it's not the usual way you do things. But then to have it work out as well as it did must have been great in the moment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I would say like whatever magic juju that I felt in our first meeting carried through, and it lifted Paul up and it lifted me up, and we didn't feel rushed. We didn't feel like we were scrambling for ideas or chasing like, oh, we got to do this overdub and we're running out of time. It flowed so organically. This whole process has been incredibly organic, and I've loved that because it's like it can be really intimidating to say, I'm going to make a new album and now I have to do all these things and I have to follow a schedule. And art shouldn't really be like that. I mean,
Sure.
it I feel like it should happen, you try to grab the inspiration when it's coming and then flow with it, kind of like you're just like dipping into a river and just going with the flow.
Right. Well, and that comes across in this. I mean, it's very rough and tumble. It's. I think I said messy before. It's raw and it's real. It's not. Some albums are like a first date where you meet somebody and everything is put together and everything is perfect and arranged and coordinated. And this is more like going over to somebody's house where there's some shit on the couch and it's kind of messy and they haven't cleaned up, but you're seeing the real them as opposed to this polished, perfect, phony presentation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that analogy. That's really cool. I would agree. And it's taken me a while to become comfortable with like not sonic perfection or some idea that I might have of it being that way. I mean, I got to work with Michael Wagner um, a few years ago on a little record we made called Bright Future. Super honored that he wanted to work with me. But I also went into it feeling like, wow, like we're going to come out with this really polished rock album,
Uh-huh.
which we did in many ways. Like there's a little bit of pop and there's some other stuff in there, but man, that guy had like 35 mics on the drums. You know, everything was planned out to a T and everything
Sure.
was sonically tight.
Right.
This was this
The
was
opposite
me.
of
This was
that.
me. Yeah, this was really me. This felt very feel like I've gotten to a place where I feel really comfortable in my skin and I'm happy to have my first date. Here I am.
There you are, exactly. So,
Come on
so
in.
has it changed the way that you now think about things when you're writing songs or putting things together? Do you, kind of go, that's okay. I don't have to worry something or fuss over it too much. I've got this nugget of an idea, and I know it'll turn into something else down the road, you know?
That's absolutely how I approach it. I feel like I have a really good gauge of when a song is finished and when it needs some help or it's usually the form and the melody of the verse and the chorus and even maybe a bridge will come to me and then I'll nuance the verses and kind of work it and figure that out later. Or sometimes I'll just get a big nugget and all of it right in one go,
Right.
and I'm so grateful for those moments. They still happen, and I always like pinch myself because it's a pleasant surprise every time because I'm never sure when they're going to hit me. But you know, it's when I demo stuff or when I record stuff, I want to hear honesty and truth and vulnerability, and because that's what I like to hear when I listen to music. And when you listen to old records, you know, old rock and roll, like the Kinks um or the Who, or it's wild and messy and there's a lot going on. It's not really polished. You know, they've embraced mistakes in that way. I want to experience that. I want people to be able to experience that because like I don't know what's the point in making it sound like clean and tight unless that's your sound, unless that's your voice and your sound and you want it to be super clean and tidy.
No,
um
I mean, mission accomplished. And I think lyrically too, there's definitely some blood on the track, so to speak, on these things. They're very personal songs. And I mean, obviously everything you've ever done has some personal element to it, whether it's conscious or unconscious or factual or fictional. But these things have a kind of a lot of them feel just sort of almost diaristic, you know? They feel like you're kind of going straight from here to here and then onto the track, so it definitely fits in with the music in terms of being real and raw and grounded and earthy. So I don't know that you could have made this same album with these lyrics and these songs. I'm sure you could have made it countless different ways, but this way really seems to fit together. The jigsaw seems to fit perfectly together.
mm-hmm. um I will say on that note that I had a wonderful conversation about this with my friend Aaron Lee Tasjan, who I love and adore. He's just
Great guy. Yeah. Artist in his own right. Yeah.
great artist, great songwriter. He's been putting out new music now, kind of simultaneous to me, and I just really, really, I love his just his approach and his work ethic and his wisdom. And we were having a conversation a couple weeks ago, um, about like how I feel like my journey, I've been like trying to figure out my sound for, you know, all these years, and I've changed my sound. And we were joking. He told me this fun little story that I love about Neil Young being approached after his Harvest album and then about his On the Beach album, like, hey, aren't you upset that it's not as successful as Harvest? And he's like, it sounds completely different than Harvest. I'd say it's a success. And I loved hearing that because I've been going through these new incarnations, kind of reaching, looking, trying different sounds, different experiences. And I feel like lyrically and sonically, the things that are inside that I'm emoting and what I want to hear when I listen to a record, the sonics have come together on this album.
Yeah,
Finally,
exactly. Yeah. And I mean,
yeah,
talking about changing your style, that's I think the best way to do it is to do what you need to do, because otherwise you're just kind of making music based on somebody else's expectations or somebody else's perceptions or what you think somebody wants to hear. It's obviously harder for somebody in your position, not being, Neil Young, where you have a built-in audience in the millions who are going to, pick up your rockabilly album and then your electronic album and then your polka album and then your whatever, the whatever, the whatever. But,
yep,
I mean, you got to do it for you, right? That's otherwise it's what's the point?
absolutely.
Yeah. So, talking about the album title, Lone Wolf, and I mean, I think you've kind of, you know, part of your story seems to suggest that's the way you've approached a big chunk of your life in terms of traveling around and busking and, you know, kind of being, I don't know, rootless perhaps for a time. Um, that seems to be something, ironically, that would be tough in a place like Nashville, where it's harder to be, I think, a rebel, despite appearances.
I really I went at this album title ironically,
Okay.
in a lot of ways, like it is paying homage to a lot of time spent, solo traveling, seeking, um, coming in and out of the music biz too. There was a time, I mean, I had club owners in New York. One of them in particular, Kenny Gorka from the Bitter End, man, he was like, I call him my industry father. Like he looked out for me. I was like this kid that rolled up, and he was like, would, kind of point me in the right directions and stuff, and let me come play piano at the club during the day and whatever. That was my home base. And man, there were times when I needed to dip out of that scene, like just the club hopping and the schmoozing and I needed to pull myself away. And so I was always just you know, seeking the world and cultures and people. I needed fodder to write about, right? Like I need to learn about myself and the world. And so I found myself in England, and I found myself around Europe, and I found myself in Australia for a period of time, all incredibly eye-opening. But when I got here, I think the thing that I wound up seeking was community.
Mm.
And I felt it already. I think I felt this like this settled hominess that it felt very attractive. It felt a little bit underground still when I moved here, even though, gosh, it's just like
Sure.
popping off in terms of people still moving here by the troves. But I felt drawn to the fact that people would just go get together and have a Cheap Trick cover band or an
Mm.
Aerosmith cover band, or they do a tribute show to this artist, or that people were just playing music for the joy of it. And everybody was so great at it and celebrating their musicianship together.
Mm.
That's not what I experienced in New York. It wasn't all not that, but there wasn't a lot of cohesive community. And here I could feel it. And I knew I wanted more of it. And I knew I wanted to be a better player. I knew there was more than just country here, like all of it. And so the irony in the Lone Wolf title is that honestly, I feel like way less of a lone wolf than I've ever felt in my life and my career. I
Right.
have more support, more collaborators than I've ever had. Um, and it's kind of I have a wolf tattoo and I love wolves. And so I think a lot of people have always been like, oh, are you a lone wolf? And I'm like, actually, no, man. Like,
Uh-huh.
we're all in this together. We're a
Right. Okay. So did you first move to Nashville to do the TV show, or were you already there at that point and were selected for the show?
I am a mixer, an audio mixer for film and television.
Right.
And so I had done that for a number of years on a number of reality shows. And the company doing the Crazy Hearts show, I heard about it through the breeze, the bees. And I was in Atlanta at the time, and so I came up to do an audition tape. Um, I I was already kind of scheming on moving here. I had started recording here, and I won't go into details about that. It was just a tricky producer taking money situation and not
Gotcha.
producing the album.
Right.
But I had come here and I started coming here to record, and I would kind of go between Atlanta and New York and come here. Got on the show, I got cast. I wore a lapel shirt and my cowboy boots because it was kind of like a country music theme. And I was like, well, I'll play a Lucinda Williams song. Like that's kind of as close to country as I get.
Mhm.
And I got on it, man. And they cast me as like the new girl in town. And I really was. I mean, I really moved here for the start of the show. And I knew I was going to stay here and this was going to be the place I would live for real, not just for the show.
Right.
Um, and knowing that it was a little, it was a kind of it was a very Fairlight entrance to Nashville. It was a little rocky, but I had to give it a try, right? It was an opportunity and I could see the potential in the opportunity. And I did it, I did so cautiously.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, because I mean, I honestly I didn't watch the show when it was on. So the first I heard about it was when I was sort of finding out about you to talk to you. And so I've only seen the clips that are still floating around on YouTube of things.
that's all
And
you need.
okay, because I was going to say that they it's going to sound like an insult, but they don't seem to paint you in the best light. They kind of paint you as a an ambitious, scheming, bit of a heel villainess, which is a great character to play. But um, I wonder how is it how that affects the rest of your time when the cameras aren't on you and you're trying to make connections in an industry and you're kind of being portrayed in this reality show as someone that you probably aren't in reality, you know?
It affected me a lot. I can point to at least one time or time period when uh, Exit In wouldn't touch me or honestly any of the cast members. They were like, "Oh, that fucking show. It had a bad reputation here. Believe
Okay.
me." Um, and I was aware of that. I definitely, in retrospect, would have made some different choices on camera and been riskier and gone against the producers and been like, cha cha chow, chow. Bet you didn't expect that
Yeah.
for
How
hindsight
can
of
you say?
2020.
Yeah.
But I met my now husband
Yeah.
just 2 weeks ish into moving here and starting the show. I met him through one of the cast members, Leroy Powell.
Right.
He's Whiskey Wolves of the West. Um, and uh, and honestly, I would say that like he and I are the only two who have gone on to continue to do music. And um, he introduced me to Jeremy, my husband, and it was like so. And I got to record a Joan Jett cover song, which I argued tooth and nail over. I rearranged it with Jason Lenning, amazing producer, writer, and got to record it with, like Sheryl Crow's drummer, Fred, and like just amazing musicians at Ocean Way. So I walked away with a Universal Big Machine recording of a Joan Jett cover song and and eventually a husband who is and my husband has been my window to the rock scene in Nashville. So I was able to pivot away from the hokey country reality wannabe thing to like let's get down to the nitty gritty of like let's make some real music.
Right. And then I mean the show didn't last long enough for it to be the only stereotype that people are going to see you as. You know what I mean? It didn't become that's who the only person you are, right? So you've been able to get
I've been
beyond
able to make my break, and luckily people don't recognize me from it. Every now and then, but like, oh
that.
yeah, gosh, it was really chasing my coattails for a second there, and it was tough. I got hate mail from strangers who were like, "Go back under the rock that you crawled out from," and why are you even
Wow.
trying to do music? And
Yikes. Okay.
yeah, it was hard. It was really hard, but
Well, let's segue to your latest tour de force performance with your husband. You portraying, I don't know what is it, Leather Girl #4 in the new Ace Frehley video.
I wish. I mean, I would beg to say Leather Girl #2 behind his girlfriend, but
Okay, Fair
Uh,
enough. We'll give you a leather. Is there a call sheet for the Ace Frehley video shoot?
no, no, we're just all the cherry medicine girls.
uh, uh,
Um, so
Tell me about doing that. It seems like a ridiculously fun experience in the moment.
it was it was fantastic. And similarly to the Pitch Perfect 3 experience and being like a Joan Jett character, it carried through with like exactly like kind of the goals that my husband had growing up with, like playing with his rock and roll heroes and getting to do that. And then us being in a music video together and me being able to be like Susie Quattro, and like it was great. It was a beautiful summation of his time with Ace. He's been in the band for about 5 years now.
Yeah.
Um, and it was just so special. Like we couldn't have passed it up. Us both being, my husband likes to put it this way. If, 10, 12, 15-year-old Jer could have foreseen that he and his wife were going to be in a music video with Ace Frehley, like his mind would have been blown. Yeah. So pretty neat, pretty neat. It was a really fun opportunity and a cool kind of like timestamp. We were there. We did this.
Exactly, yeah. And while I wouldn't call it acting per se, you have done some other acting. Obviously, you did Pitch Perfect 3, you've done this and that. Is that an avenue that you always want to sort of have one foot in the door of, or are you just doing it because it's uh, something else to do, or what's your relationship with that versus music?
Um, Great question. When I finished the season of Crazy Hearts, I made a pact with myself that I would never do reality again unless I was in control, or I would only do scripted work. And I manifested that. An opportunity came around about 3 years after Crazy Hearts to go audition for Pitch Perfect 3. So I drove down to Atlanta and met the director. And then they messaged me the next day, you got the part. So I couldn't believe it. I didn't even know the magnitude of the project at the time. It kind of just unfolded itself to me. And it came about by doing the music and continuing to work. It didn't come about by some deep connection or some kind of angle on the situation, or me pursuing acting. It came
Right.
about, I kept getting out there and doing music, and I, got to be put in a hat of people that know how to look like a rock star on the screen,
Yeah.
um, and I would say, I do have an acting agency and I do some smaller commercial work pretty regularly. And I enjoy it.
Mhm.
I'm comfortable in that space, extremely comfortable. I would love to have more opportunities like that. So I keep the door open, but I know, I would safely say my heart and soul feels a lot more comfortable, a lot more artistically satiated being an artist and making music.
Right. Are you still doing sound work for projects?
I am, absolutely. Yep, on a
Oh,
rolling basis. Sound for hire. I
so
wear a
a
busker
lot of
on my
oars in the
belly and I
water.
swing a boom.
Yeah. That's do you enjoy that kind of moving around in variety, or would you prefer to be able to, have the luxury of to be able to just, pick one thing and sort of devote all your energies toward it?
Um, I'm grateful for all of it. I'm
Sure.
grateful to be diverse. There was a time, one producer really early on in my career when I was doing sound for a project, and they liked the sound of my voice and had me do voiceover to replace the voiceover from their VO artist because she didn't do the job that they wanted.
Mhm.
And they liked the job I did better. They didn't even pay me any extra for it. It was part of my day rate doing audio. And I was like, ooh, this is my in to do voiceover work. This is great. And I sent an email to that producer. I'd really like to do more of this kind of work if you'll have me. And he sent me back a message, stay in your lane, do audio only. Just if this came from anybody I didn't know, a stranger, I wouldn't have even answered it. And it really it took me aback for a second.
Yeah, well, that's silly. I mean, these days. I don't think that lane thing is as true as it used to be. You know what I mean? I mean, it's first of all, it's just a pragmatic thing of all of the industries have collapsed basically. So you have to have multiple income streams and revenue streams just to survive. And
Hmm.
there isn't that stigma anymore, I don't think, as much of because back in the day it'd be like, oh, she's just an actress who wants to be a musician, or he's a musician who wants to be an actor, and people would kind of, you know, just shut you down right there. But these days, everybody's kind of doing everything. Jason Isbell's in a Martin Scorsese movie, and Sarah Tudson's a record producer with her own band, Illuminati Hotties, and you know what I mean. Everybody's
Yep.
got all
Hey,
these pots on the
about
stove.
music. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's total bullshit. And it took me a while. I mean, I was pretty young when that came down the pike, and it really it gave me pause, but it did not let me I didn't let it burn out my little flame that, man, I'm ever so grateful that I'm diverse and that I have, what if I was only a touring musician and that was my one thing, and then I'm what if I play for an artist and I'm chasing artists all the time and it's a drag, like I really dig having the versatility. Would I love another Pitch Perfect 3 to come down the pike? Absolutely. Like that's a beautiful, that the just the diversity too of tying it into music. I play on the actual soundtrack. I play the bass on the track of the song.
Great.
And that's like, that's royalty checks in the mail. And that's me using my skills and earning a paycheck. And I mean, I'd be lying if I told you I love doing audio, but it's way better than holding a big mixer on my belly and breaking my back.
For
Um,
sure.
much rather be slapping the bass or whatever, So,
I
um,
just think it's great that you talk about, that little flame and keeping that little flame alive, because I think that can be really hard in the job that you're doing. It's tough to be in the position you're in. Making this music and putting your heart and soul in it and putting it out there and hoping it connects with somebody, and then, in the next breath going off to maybe audition for a commercial or hold the boom over something, and to try and not be discouraged. That's got to be, how do you how do you keep that sort of little flame alive?
woo, uh, loaded question. Well, the music, especially in this time period when I'm um, voraciously promoting this new work,
Mhm.
I can get this is the trickiest time. It's like I'm giving birth, the baby's not coming yet. I want it to come so bad. It's right at the end. It's
Uh-huh.
about to be time to be due. And there's so much energy that can get lost in the promotion process.
Right.
And you can lose sight of the beautiful thing that you made. And like I really try to ground myself on a daily basis, because every day I'm working away, I'm making an EPK, or I'm working on my website, or I'm trying to get my domain back, or I'm trying to do all these admin things. And keeping connected, the things that really keep me grounded and keep my flame going are like my love of music, um, listening every day to music differently based on what I just recorded and the sounds we got and the process of recording on tape, and recognizing, oh, they probably did that on tape, or oh, they did that, or thinking about like listening, that carries me, experiencing music with my children.
Mm.
Um, you know, oh my gosh, talk about grounding force and a flame burning force, like showing them mom and dad are not gonna like crumble, fold, or get a normal job, which by the way, I don't know what that would look like for us. We've been in the entertainment industry for too long at this point.
Uh-huh.
But showing them that we soldier on, even though we're a little bit different than your average family. Um, this is how we do it, and let's manifest, let's keep doing this thing. And I think one of the things that keeps the flame going is like I can see that I'm growing and I'm getting closer to understanding what my voice is and what I'm doing with this whole thing, you know. And
Mhm.
I don't want to give up before the miracle or whatever. I'd love to find out what that is. So
Right. So are you going to be able to tour this?
short answer is yes. Um, I have been talking about it with my team. I don't have anything booked yet.
Right.
My biggest goal is to try to jump on as a spicy, energetic opener for somebody who'll have
Yeah.
me. That's my goal that I'm manifesting right now. I think that'd be a really good place for me to be access bigger audiences. So I will be working with a booking agent. It will probably vary between like a three-piece band and me solo, which I'm
Sure.
happy to do both, and I think I
Because
can do
that's just the
absolutely.
financial. Yeah.
Probably gonna leave my it pains me because my husband plays with me and plays a very vital role in when I'm in my like ADHD Rain Man running around doing the fans, doing all the things. He is like the come behind me and sweep up all or like bringing the instruments or oh you left this here I'm gonna tune this quick or he's like my tour manager so it'd be and he's a badass player and
Sure. Yes.
fills in all the sonic holes that you could think of but his role would be greatly appreciated as the caretaker of our children in this case.
Yes. Well, there's that too. Unless you're going to get the Partridge Family bus thing happening, right?
Precisely.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. So, have you got other, other pots boiling on other burners on the stove, in addition to this album that we should talk about, or is this kind of, you know, the
this is
golden orb at the center of your focus right now, and nothing else enters?
this is the golden orb. This is the orb. Man, I had a dream 2 nights ago and I haven't had a dream like this in a while, that I was pregnant. And I was only like 3 months pregnant in the dream, but the baby was like poking out and like moving. And I could see it moving under my belly and like pushing its head and pushing its arms gently, but like aggressively. And I told my husband about the dream the next day. I was like, whoa, I had a baby dream. Something's coming. Something's coming down the pike. I don't know what it is. It's not a baby. We're not doing anymore, even though between you and I would love to do it again. But something's coming. I don't know what it is, but I had a baby dream. And he was like, I was like, what do you think the baby could be? What does it mean? And he's like, maybe it's your album. I was like, duh, of course, it's probably my album. It's been my it's been my focus every day. I'm shooting and editing all the videos myself.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
I do have a team, but I'm sure you've heard this before too. Don't be fooled by the word team. There's a lot of very extremely vital and appreciated delegation happening, but I'm doing a lot of work and I'm loving it.
Are you a
And
control freak?
a control freak?
Yeah,
No, I'm mostly just a little bit broke and
I got it.
no, absolutely not. No, I'm relinquishing more and more and more control every day. I absolutely adore having the insights of my team.
No, I
Um,
know, but that does cost money.
it costs money. It
Yeah.
does. And I'm so grateful I'm able to do this with people who know more than I do about a lot of this stuff this time around. So I'm just hoping get a couple more ears, climb a couple more rungs up the ladder. Maybe the view will be a little different from up there. That's my goal.
That's a pretty solid goal to have and a pretty realistic one. I'm sure you deal with as many people more than I deal with who have some sort of weird, crazy notion of where they're going to be a year from now, or they have a 5-year plan mapped out that involves, Saturday Night Live and things. And you kind of go, well, good luck with you in your dream. But the more rational, logical dream is, yeah, I'm just trying to get another rung up here and get my head above this cliff and see what the view is from there.
Mm-hmm. And I would say, like, I think it's when you're not looking for those things that they happen
Yeah.
or they can happen. It's like the the ground becomes more like supple and ready for that when you're ready and it's usually when you're not looking for it. that
No,
it
yeah, exactly. All you can do is keep doing what you do and put one foot in front of the other, and eventually, you get somewhere, right?
absolutely.
All right. Well, listen, I will let you get on with the rest of your day. Your
Thank
your
you.
kids will be coming back from their bike ride soon, I guess, and they'll want snacks, I presume. So, things to do.
Snacks, dinner, grilling, who knows what, but I'm so grateful my husband took him out there, and it's gorgeous out here. All the magnolia trees and everything are blossoming. And so yeah, March and spring are in full swing. I'm super stoked. I'm super stoked to be talking with you today. Thank you for taking the time.
My pleasure, and thanks for the album, and best of luck with everything, and hopefully we'll see you somewhere down the road.
I hope so.
All
I hope so.
right.
All right. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.